Hi, everyone. It's Michelle Nabati. I am so excited. I'm here today with Paige Sparks from St. Louis, Missouri. Hello. She is a plaintiff's employment attorney. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to do this with you, Michelle.
I'm so excited. I have seen you all over my TikTok and now my Instagram because I follow you on Instagram too. And I was excited to hear that we are interviewing such an intelligent attorney. So thank you again. And I see that you're working from home. Are you guys working from home right now?
Constantly working from home. I refuse to go back. Like that was the best part of the pandemic for me, was switching to work from home life. And so unless I have court or a deposition or something, I am always working from home now.
Have you enjoyed working from home, or were you working from home before the pandemic too, or just since?
No, I was in the office full time until the pandemic happened. And then I'm loving working from home because I'm a crazy dog mom person. So I get to be with my dog all day, like make lunch when I want kind of thing. And I've been loving it.
Yes, I actually think I've seen some videos of you walking your dog and giving very important legal advice while walking your dog, I think.
Sure, yeah, he makes an appearance from time to time. Yes, yeah. Sometimes he does. Or sometimes he barks during Zoom court. He's also done that. I'm like, oh my God.
So how has practicing law for you changed since the pandemic and working from home? How has it been?
It has been busier than pre-COVID. We've never been busier because I do primarily employment law on the plaintiff side. And so daily I'm talking to people that are wanting to get exemptions for the vaccine. They're wanting to know if the policy from their employer is legal for them to enforce or what their repercussions could be. So my phone, as you can imagine, is like ringing off the hook half the time. I can't even keep up with the amount of calls when a new law changes, or like when the most recent Supreme Court verdict came down when they were holding off vaccine mandates. Oh, it went nuts. Because then, the average person doesn't know what you and I know about, like that is for the federal government and we're waiting to see everything else. So everyone who was like a local employer, they were like, okay, so I don't have to get it now. I'm like, no, that's not what that meant. Like, it's been busier than ever thanks to COVID and all the employment law changes with it.
Yes, it definitely has been. But, I'm really curious to know, so you're in Missouri, I'm in Los Angeles. The court systems are kind of antiquated a little bit here. So when COVID hit, we kind of stopped trials for a little bit because, not everything is always up to date in law. I feel like we're the last profession to be modernized. So
yes.
how has COVID impacted you guys in Missouri? Is it the same, or are you guys having jury trials?
It was really strange right at the beginning because, like you said, a lot of these courts weren't set up to do this volume of virtual things. So we actually had about like a month or two of like everything being auto continued, and I didn't have to like really do anything or appear. And then they got Zoom and WebEx and everything set up. And so because I do a couple of criminal cases, like low-level criminal things too, those all started going through WebEx and virtual, and that started happening. And then everyone else kind of caught up for all the other cases because those were in jail and they're doing it on Zoom is a little more important than an example. So they did catch up. I love the fact that now all the courts are like virtual option. A lot of mine will allow in-person or virtual option, which is great. And then they did start doing jury trials in Greene County, Missouri, and like mid-COVID. I mean, like everyone was still terrified of it. Mid-COVID, you're wearing 2 N95 masks. And they had it at like a conference center at a convention center, like a wildlife place. And so I had the judge who presided over the jury trial was like, it was the most unreal thing ever. Like you look to your left, there's a juror 6 feet away at their own table. You look to your right, there's a taxidermy coyote. Like that's how they did the jury trial.
Oh my God.
I heard mixed, yeah, it was really, I mean, that's Missouri, but I heard mixed reviews that it was great that they were trying to adapt to it, but because of like everyone spread out, I mean, like, the dynamic of the jury, you want them like here and hostage and focused. They're listening to your case. And so, when you can like look around at a grizzly bear and things like that, apparently that wasn't ideal. I think they only did one like that.
Okay, so I want to get this straight. So in the middle of the pandemic, the courts or some courts in Missouri, their solution to having jury trials was to rent out somewhere outside of the court and pretty much have an entire jury trial outside
At a conference center.
at a conference
Yeah.
center where everybody was 6 feet apart. Well, that's very fascinating. I don't think that would be able to work in LA. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
It would be very expensive, I think, to do in LA for that amount of space. This was like in very more like rural Missouri. And so it's like more space, not like the same real estate prices or anything, but it definitely was unconventional jury trial from what I heard. But, Missouri's the show me state. When there's a will, there's a way. They tried it. And I think they only did one. They didn't do it again.
They were afraid that they would get sued for somebody getting like eaten by a coyote or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be so distracting.
That's really funny. That's really funny. So, speaking about the legal industry right now, especially during COVID, what is the biggest thing that you believe needs to change in the overall legal industry?
So I think what I think needs to change is already happening, and it's what we already touched on, is the technology. That has been astronomical, world of difference for my cases, because we're not having to appear necessarily on simple things that can just be continued. It's saving the clients time and money because I don't have to travel to Kansas City, Missouri for a case. We can now just virtually join in federal court. It's really been great that they've adapted that. I'm sad that some of the courts, because we're like rooted in tradition, right? So now that it's getting a little better, a lot of courts are like, okay, now that our numbers are better, let's do back to in-person only. That makes me kind of sad because it was working. It was great, So it's kind of hit or miss. Each court varies. I wish it would continue kind of in the direction of we're moving toward the future of staying more. I think the pandemic really forced a lot of the courts, especially the more traditional ones, that wouldn't want to change. And hopefully that'll just continue.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I think that the easier it is to have access remotely, the more, in my view, the more people that we can help. And that's essentially our job. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, the barrier to filing a lawsuit alone is so annoying, So I definitely agree. I want everything to be virtual, but I rather have a virtual jury trial than one in a conference center, I will say though.
Yeah, I think, well, so, a lot of our cases stalled during the middle of COVID because we couldn't go to jury trial. So I don't mean that they like lost value, but a lot of defense counsel for my cases was like, feet up, just chilling because there's nothing we can do. So as much as that's weird, it did really kind of bring more pressure and value back to our plaintiff cases because plaintiffs' attorneys were all a little nuts. So we're like, we will go to trial. Like we'll do it in the convention center. We don't care. And so that did get some people collaborating more once they were like, where else will they have the trial at? So it had its perks kind of to get things going again because it did stall. But yeah, it wouldn't be ideal though.
Yeah, I actually, funny you say that. I like shot myself in the leg. We had a trial setting conference a year ago, literally, and I was like, oh, it's the pandemic. I'm going to just say that I'm ready to go to trial like tomorrow because it's going to get continued because of COVID anyway. So the judge was like, okay, plaintiff's counsel, like, when do you want to set your jury trial for? And I was like, oh, whether or not the courts are open, first available date. And the trial's literally next month and the courts are all open. And at the time I thought that was going to be extended. I was like, well, that really backfired.
No. So that backfired a little. Can you get it continued or like you're going?
We are going. And, I definitely think I agree with you too about the pandemic kind of making cases go forward a little bit unconventionally. So I'm curious to know how you really kept the pressure on your cases to move them forward and, you know, make sure that defense counsels aren't just trying to bamboozle your clients.
So most of the cases that I do through employment, we have an administrative procedure we have to do anyway, which can take a big chunk of time. So like the delay from COVID doesn't really affect my cases because we usually have a 2-year statute of limitations. And we've got this like mandatory minimum of 180 days that either the EEOC or the Missouri Commission of Human Rights gets to investigate the charge. So that's kind of the limbo stage where I'm not like concerned about a case or the delays with COVID. Once we get out of there, whether like mediation is not successful or we get our notice of right to sue, is when like I'm like lawsuit happy right now. I'm like, can I do like I get authorization? I'm like, we can bring this lawsuit. Okay, cool. Like I have a lawsuit about a bathtub right now. It's great. Like everybody's just kind of like turned me off the leash because it's getting going again. And so that's happening. I've been like very excited lately to get my notice of right to sue. I'm like, lawsuit's ready, let's go. So once that's happening, it's been easier to push now because you go through the discovery, of course, and everything with that. But we haven't gotten close to a jury trial yet. Haven't seen how it would play out for us because all of our cases are in that middle stage still.
Yeah, well, I have a good feeling, and I'm crossing my fingers that hopefully you guys will get in the courtroom again soon. So what I'm super, super excited to talk to you about is your social media and your social media presence. You have such fun and informative videos. And even sometimes I'm in LA and I see your TikTok videos and I'm like, wow, you are giving people such good information. So how did you kind of start doing that?
Well, thanks. I wish I had California employment laws, by the way, for my TikToks. They could be way better. You guys have the best employment law ever. But I actually got started thanks to COVID. So as a brand new associate or like a younger associate at the firm, you know, normally you get like a base salary, and then what you bring in, you kind of work up and you can get your attorney's fees on it if you bring it in. So I'm like, middle of COVID, we're locked down. I'm watching Tiger King, and I'm like, how am I going to get money in? Like I am a hustler, Michelle. I have like a side hustle for everything. I just started a new company today for spray tans. Like I'm nuts. Okay. And so I'm like, how can I make money during COVID? I can't go out and network. I can't meet people and share that information. And it was like right at the beginning of TikTok when it was kind of controversial about, you know, we weren't cool if you downloaded it because the younger generations were dancing on it kind of thing. I don't dance on TikTok. That's not for me.
Imagine saying the law while you're doing like
no,
like TikTok.
No, I mean, that's where I draw the line of like, I'm not a very good dancer. I don't do that on TikTok, but so I was like, you know what? Because it's scary. It's really, I mean, you know, from your social media too, it's a very vulnerable thing. It's kind of scary because you're putting yourself out there. And so I made video, and the first couple ones were just like everybody's first TikTok, like a trend or something short, or it was way too scripted. It wasn't organic. And so the first one that really took off for me, I'm going to be totally candid with you, Michelle. I had an after work cocktail. I was quarantined. Okay. I'm walking my dog and I was like, you know what? And all my TikToks are pretty much like a phone call I have with someone. I'm like, I wish people knew this. Like, I wish I could have told them that before they quit, you know? And so I was like sipping on my little drink, walking my dog, and I just recorded one. And I was like, HR is not your friend. They're going to tell you this, this, and this. Don't believe them. Talk with the lawyer, you know, all the disclaimers at the end because someone wants to turn me in. But I was like, you know, whatever. And it's the ones that I prepped the least for, or I don't look good in, or that I'm like buzzed a little in. And that was like my first video. It took off and went nuts. I don't know that I got 1 million views, but it got pretty close. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. Like, what's going on? And so ever since then, I was like, well, maybe people like this. And then I kept making them.
Did your boss find them? Did your boss say anything to you? How did they receive it?
So I get a lot of leeway at work to kind of do whatever he calls it, creative marketing. I can kind of do that. I'm not breaking any rules. I do the disclaimer, and then stuff comes in. So, you know, no complaints about it. I would make him check stuff sometimes if I was like, can I post this, or you think that's not good? But like for like a DWI one, because I don't know that as well as like he does, for example, I'd be like, is this is this crossing to legal advice? And he'd be like, maybe don't post that. But for the most part, I just kind of got free reign with it.
That's amazing. And, I feel like, do you feel like ever since the pandemic, because we're all watching social media all the time, or we were on social media watching Tiger King on Netflix. Do you think that kind of changed the way lawyers interacted with people? Or do I'm really curious to know how you think we went from these like very stuffy attorneys to like being able to post on TikTok and getting really well received,
I think it was great. It shows everyone that we're people. We're not, pretentious. Well, some of us are, but I'm not pretentious or stuck up, So I think it really showed people that we're people too. We like to have fun. We can share the information. I'm sure you probably follow one of my favorite TikTok attorneys is Rachel Reese. I love her stuff. She shares the best content and said it really well in a video the other day. It's like, we're people. We can have fun. I don't live in a suit. I don't wake up in a suit. And I think it really helps like humanize our profession a little bit. I think, of course, there's like too far on that spectrum where people are like really weird about it, but what, works for them.
Really?
And I think that the lawyers who are kind of late to the game really have to like get in and catch up on it. I think it's the new form. I think it's the new, not even advertising, but getting exposure, sharing information, especially with employment law. Like a lot of people don't know if you resign, you can potentially end your case if you have one. And so sharing information like that can help people not only preserve their rights and protect their interests, but that's something that the average person may not necessarily know. And you don't want them Googling that when they can be like, you have the reputation for sharing this information.
Has opposing counsel ever said anything or made a comment about seeing your TikToks?
Yes. I had one lawyer tell me that I was Bush League. That really inspired me to work hard on that case. That offended me. And then someone today, so I have a couple like other attorneys that it is scary. And like, the legal community is not always nice. And so they wanted to do it. And I'm like, hey, this is what worked for me. And like trying to just be like a helpful friend. And one of them today actually just sent me a message, I guess. So it's like in family law, she is. And someone messaged her client was like, you don't even have a real lawyer. She just plays on TikTok. And I'm like, you struck a nerve. But that's what, like the guy that called me Bush League, I was like, maybe I should do a video on that, Michelle, because I went and found his social media and I would be angry too. If I was him.
I know he's just angry because he's not as curated and fun and relatable as you are.
Maybe.
And probably miserable doing his job. But have you had success finding clients on social media and interacting with them, or how has it been for you?
Yeah, I have. That's why I started doing it. So I'm like, what am I going to do to bring these cases in? And they really have brought, not like tons. You get paid a little bit from very like peanuts from TikToks. That doesn't do anything for me, really. It's like people sharing the videos, especially like I'll make the video on TikTok and repurpose it to Instagram or Facebook. And that's where I'm getting my local community where, I want to be. And people sharing it, people I don't even know will be like, I saw your video on, and it's kind of like embarrassing. I'm a very private person. I'm not normally like, no, like, I'm like, oh, you saw that? Like, don't think that's just how I am. So whenever someone will randomly that I don't know is like, I saw your video on what to do if you get pulled over. And I'm like, you did? Oh my gosh.
Local celebrity. Has anybody come up to you after seeing one of your TikToks?
A couple times, yeah. One time I was I don't know if you guys do this in LA, but we have like big beer festivals here. Like, and there'd be like a big beer tent and you have like a sign. And I had been drinking one of those and someone was like, I love your TikToks. And I was like, oh, thanks. Like, here you go. Like, you didn't see me here. But I think that's part of the fun of it too, is like, cause I do want to portray that like we're normal, we can have fun. It's like when you would see your teacher outside of school and you're like, you don't live under your desk at night. Like, no, we don't.
I know that was always the weirdest thing, seeing my teachers like at the movie theaters or something. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I feel like that's how we get that kind of rep too.
Yes. Well, I feel like a lot of people have such horrible or unfounded misconceptions about attorneys. And what do you generally think people's misconceptions of attorneys are?
Oh my gosh, where do you want me to even begin? Just go through some of my comments on the controversial videos. They'll be like, it must be nice lying for a living. And like, it'll be like, I'll share a TikTok of my dog in his snow costume, and they'll be like, you're a liar. It must be nice lying for a living. And I'm like, oh my God. But people definitely, I don't know. I think social media can only help our profession be seen in a more positive light, so long as everybody's using it right, which would be like in person too. But oh, there's so many things. And it'll be like the videos that I least expect to go south. And someone will be like, you don't even know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And like going crazy about the Nuremberg Code on like I said, a video of my dog. So people just think a lot of crazy stuff. My favorite thing to do whenever they go nuts on me like that is I just respond and I say, who hurt you? And then they block me. Then that usually stops it.
We love a sassy queen, especially
A little bit. I'm a little bit.
I definitely feel like on TikTok, you can get away with being way sassier than you can on Instagram, I found.
Yeah, I do think so too. That it's well, but they did change it. Like if you started sharing information or like when someone would be mean, if I was like, look at this comment, that would get me dinged, like flagged for bullying. So now I mean, and then people were like, just don't give the bad stuff attention. That was the best advice that other creators on there gave me. It was like, nobody's seeing that comment. It's buried down. And so if you use that to make a new video, you're giving them the attention they wanted. And so that was the best advice. When I stopped doing that and quit trying to like prove myself, like I am a real lawyer, like Pinocchio, I'm a real boy, when I quit doing that, it stopped because they weren't getting like that feedback.
What do you think made you feel more confident? Or what do you think when do you think the change happened that made you more confident about your videos and just start ignoring the hate kind of?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure that I can pinpoint it. I think it was you know how like lawyers are known for having like imposter syndrome. We're always wondering, we're always worried we don't know, like all those things. So I think the change so that's how we live our life pretty much. The change for me happened, I think probably after I got a couple good views on videos, like, at least 5-figure views. And I started getting a little group of people that were like a fan club, and they were like supportive. They would get the haters right away. And I'm like, I do know what I'm talking about. I don't know why I'm letting these people think, me second guess myself or be scared of posting a video. And it still happens. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I better check that before I post that I said the right act, But I think it happened after like my third good video. And I was like, well, maybe I do know what I'm talking about. And then I just kept going.
I'm really, really glad that you didn't give up or you didn't stop posting after your first one, because I feel like there's so many people who have such great content or such great advice or anything to give, and maybe their first video doesn't go viral. So what advice do you have to young, whether they're lawyers or business owners, what advice do you have to them to not stop posting and continue sharing their passion with everyone?
The best advice I have is advice that was given to me. And so when you're doing it only for the views and you don't get those views, it's not validating content. Like when you spend all this time making one, it gets 200 views. You're like, what's going on? When you make content that you enjoy making. So like for me, it was sharing knowledge, especially like big myth buster ones for employment law. When I enjoy making the content, I'm calmer, I'm more genuine with it. I don't care about the views. I'm doing it to share information and it's fun. The views are like a set afterthought. If they get a bunch, great. But if you enjoy making the content you're doing, keep doing it. Eventually you just have to be so persistent. Don't even look at your views and eventually it takes off.
Yes, I totally 100% agree with you. When I was first making my Instagram videos, I was just like, oh my God, everything needs to be perfect. I can't make a mistake. This is going to be on social media forever. And I would record maybe like the same video 1,001 times.
Yeah,
and
right. It's stressful.
Yes. And then I was just like, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to become Crazy.
It's not fun. Yeah. It's not fun to do. And like doing social media, like how we do it, is kind of like a part-time job. It consumes whatever free time you had left. And so if you're not having fun, at a little bit of fun doing it, it's like, you don't want to do it. So that's making your content fun for you, I think, is the best advice someone gave me. And so that's what I try to do all the time. But the more I look like crap or don't rehearse it, like you're saying, like one of my most viewed videos is about the Josh Duggar trial. I went outside with like 5-day unwashed hair in a bun, like in pajamas. And I was like, this trial just broke out, thinking like nobody's going to watch it. I was answering your question and it got like 2.5 million views, Michelle. And I'm like, why did the ones I spent an hour on get like 5,000? Why does that one go? What's going on?
Because you're having fun or you believe in what you're doing. Well, I really, really enjoy watching your content because you have so much fun doing it. And I want to know, did you always want to be an attorney, or did you ever want to do anything else other than be an attorney? Or was it always, I know I want to go to law school?
I didn't know what I wanted to do for sure, that I wanted to be an attorney, until I realized I couldn't do math. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, couldn't do math or science. And so then like, well, I guess I want to be a lawyer. That was just like I didn't know what to do after undergrad. I had a close friend, family member say they didn't think I'd be able to do it. Like tried to have a genuine heart to heart with me and be like, I don't think you've got what it takes, like trying to help me. And I'm very spite motivated. So I was like, now I have to go to law school. Like, okay. And so I did, and I went and I went that route. But I have wanted to be a lawyer for a long time, but I didn't decide on it kind of until that moment. Because if you tell me I can't do it, I definitely want to try to do it, especially when it's something professional like that. And that's when I was like, here we go. None of my friends or family are surprised that I'm a lawyer, though. I'll tell you that. Like, I've been, like you said, sassy. I've been like that from day one. So like, none of them are surprised. If you asked anyone, they'd be like, that's a perfect fit. That's your profession.
Well, I know earlier you had mentioned that you have a bunch of side hustles. And what do you tell people who think that once you become an attorney, your life is absolutely over and, you are married to your job? I think that from what I've gathered from you, having your TikTok and your spray tan business that you just opened today, what do you have to tell to people who think that, oh my God, law school equals death sentence?
So it kind of does for certain periods. It's kind of like the roller coaster. I mean, that where it's like you go crazy and you get a little more freedom. Work-wise, work-life balance is the most important thing to me. So like I could not work somewhere that required me to bill 80 hours a week. Like I just wouldn't be happy. I couldn't do it. And so you have to find, some people love that, right? They like sitting down and grinding out work, and then they get this huge bonus, and that's what's important to them. That's what I couldn't do. And so I knew that right away. Like I have, like you said, all my side things I like to do. I get bored very easily. I have ADHD, so I have to keep busy in my stuff. And so the work-life balance part, once you figure it out, and I'm still trying to, like, daily, right, with like social media and stuff. Once I figured that it doesn't, like, nobody cares if you work at the office until 11 p.m., just because you're wanting to be in the office. Once I realized that, it's like, that's another part I think the profession should change, is kind of like using being overworked is not a badge of honor. Like you need to be happy too.
Amen.
And so it's possible. You just have to find the right environment.
How do you make time for all of I know that you said you have to make time for it, but how do you actually make time? How do you have time for your TikTok and this and that? What do you have to say?
I mean, I don't sleep a lot. Sometimes like I just go crazy, and a lot of my side hustles help me pay for my horse through law school, and I just can't shake them all the way. Like I've really cut back, but I'll do like house and farm sitting, and then I work from home so I can make money doing double. And then now I'm going to start doing spray tans at night and on the weekends. I do wedding makeup with my best friend. Like there's a lot of things that I don't have a lot of free time, especially during the summer, but that makes me happy. It's just a different kind of work.
Yes. What I really, really like is that you are the perfect embodiment that once you become a lawyer, you don't have to give up all of your hobbies, and you can still become a makeup artist on the side and still do spray tans on the side. And I really, truly think that a lot of people have, in my view, a misconception too, that once you go to law school, you become, you lose your personality, you become dry, you become
you
dull.
lose your identity.
Yeah.
Which I think some people do for a little bit, and then you have to figure out how you can do both, and it's possible.
So the last question I have for you on that note
Sorry, it's getting dark in here.
The last question I have for you is, what advice do you have to give to people to keep their sparkle, keep their light, even after becoming an attorney and, having these side businesses like doing makeup or doing spray tanning, and not letting becoming a lawyer dull their sparkle?
That's good. That's a good question too. I would say for me anyway, this is how I think. Like, I became a lawyer because I wanted to, but also because of the opportunities I could get from it, like more financial freedom. Everyone wants to make a bunch of money, right? So if I lose sight of the end goal, like I did this to eventually ultimately be happy. That's my end goal. So if I get married to my job, or if I do this, if I'm not always pursuing like do what makes you happy within reason, makes you happy, eventually it works out and gets there. I think that's my advice. Whether that's good advice or not, when I'm like, should I take on this other job or should I do this? And I'm like, will that make me happy? Okay, I'll do it.
Does it spark joy?
Yes, that's perfect. It's literally that for me.
Marie Kondo, very many joy sparks.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here and bringing so much light. I know that it's getting dark outside, but you were—
I know, I'm so sorry. It
No,
got
it's
dark
okay.
fast.
No, it's okay. You were such a joy to interview. Can you just let everybody know where they can find you on social media or Instagram, TikTok?
Sure. On TikTok, I'm Lawyer Paige. I was very proud. That's how early I was to the game. I got that name. Can you believe that? On TikTok, I'm Lawyer Paige. On Instagram, I'm _Paige Sparks. And those are the best ways to get like the content and reach out if you have questions or whatever. But those are like the social medias that I boost. Those are like for everybody.
Thank you so much. This is not the last time we're going to hear of you or see you. So
thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you.